Hey everybody, I have here on me the Blackview A20. So you notice that I've unboxed several Blackview phones before, and they usually come in a more like a larger packaging. So this one is so tiny because this phone, the A20, it's Blackview's first Android Go device. So Android Go, it's a version of Android that was designed specifically for very budget phones. That means phones running on like minimal specs, like 1 gig of RAM and maybe like 8 gigs of internal storage. So what Google did is it made a version of Android Go, that is more compact than typical Android. Like apps take less space. Like the overall entire Android operating system on Android Go only takes up like I think 2 gigs of RAM compared to the 5 or 6 gigs of RAM that typical Android takes up. So Google did this. It's so they can cater to the very budget phone market that that is sold in some developing countries, like maybe in Southeast Asia or Africa or something like that. So it's not meant for like the American market, but there's definitely demand for these phones because not everybody can pay. Let's not even talk about the $800 phone. Not everybody can pay $500 or $300 for a phone. So the Android Android Go is meant for phones that are under $100. So this phone here retails for $59.99 US. So that's $60 on GearBest. So it's listed as Hong Kong dollars right now, but 482 Hong Kong, it's about $59.99. So to someone like me who's fortunate, lucky enough to test all these other phones, this phone will feel very underpowered for me. But I'm gonna try to be as fair as possible because you gotta factor in the price, right? This is $60. So this is literally for like a developing, emerging market, or for someone who really don't need to spend that much money on a phone. Like maybe if I have a grandma who's like 80-year-old grandma or something, I can just give her one of these. So it should be very bare bones packaging, and it is. So you have a charging brick. This is a China charging brick. A cable, I'm pretty sure it's standard USB. Yep, not USB-C, obviously. And you have a piece of paper here, instructions. That's it. So it's minimal packaging because again, $59.99. What can you expect? So the phone comes with a case, and the back is surprisingly okay for $59.99. It's obviously plastic, but it feels pretty nice. Just peel off the front. There's already a screen protector on there. So the left side of the device is completely clean. The bottom is completely clean. Oh no, sorry, I got confused. The top is completely clean. Wait, actually, what? No, okay. I didn't get confused. The left side of the phone is completely clean. The top, the charging port is on the top. I've never seen a phone with a charging port on the top before. That's interesting. So charging port, headphone jack on the top. Actually, dual cameras. Okay, I find that hard to believe. A $59.99 phone with dual cameras. We'll see. And on the right, you have power button and volume rocker. So let's turn this thing on. Okay, I'm gonna charge this thing, play over, and I'll be back. Hey guys, I'm back. I've used the Blackview A20 on and off for about 3 days, and I gotta say, for $60, this phone is surprisingly usable. Because if you think about it, all the modern day smartphones, at least the flagship ones, are like $800, $900 or $1,000 US. And we're kind of, at least the average citizen, they've been kind of convinced that you need to pay that much for a phone to work. So when you have something that's $60 out of China, your first instinct may be, oh, that's gonna be like completely crap. Like it's not usable. It's gonna break. It's gonna set on fire when you charge it and explode. But I've been using this phone for 3 days and everything works. It's a little bit slower than usual, but it works. So let's talk hardware first. You have a 5.5-inch display at 18:9 aspect ratio. So this is a pretty modern looking display. It's not the most high res, obviously. The resolution is just 420 by 960, so you can definitely see the individual pixels when you jump in. You know, it's not the most crisp text. When you look closely, you can definitely see the pixels. And the display is actually a little bit dim. Even at max brightness, I struggle to use it outdoors on a overcast day. There's no fingerprint sensor, obviously, so you just have to use a pin code. But again, this phone is $60, so you have to take all those complaints and really just shrug them off because $60, man. I mean, this is like the price of one nice dinner in Hong Kong. So let's look at the hardware design really quick. This phone feels surprisingly nice. You know, it doesn't feel kind of hollow and cheap like that Blueberry phone I tested earlier. I quite like that there's a removable back right here. So once you remove it, this is super thin, super light, and then you have right here a removable battery, 3000 milliamps. So I'll get back to that later. That's excellent for a device like this. You only get one SIM tray, unfortunately, but the device feels pretty nice. Back cover snaps on really easily. So you see it's a little bit slow backing our apps. Let me close it really quick so it doesn't get in the way. I'll jump into that later. So you see closing apps takes a little bit longer because this phone only has 1 gig of RAM. So, you know, resources, that means apps in the background can't really be kept in the background properly. They have to, Android Go will kill it just to save memory to keep this phone running smoothly. And for the most part, it does run pretty smoothly. I'm not talking about heavy gaming, of course, but when you're running stuff like Instagram, going on emails, you know, I wrote a couple of emails, I read a couple articles, everything works fine. You can watch Instagram stories, it fills up the entire display. The camera is surprisingly okay. 5 megapixel main shooter. The second lens, I didn't even bother. There's like 0 chance it's a real second lens. Not that slow, and shutter speed, it's a little bit laggy, but not too bad. So we'll check out some photo samples really quick. Like, I think the camera really surprising, at least in daytime with good lighting anyway. So I took this indoors. This is a pretty decent shot. Took this of a flower outside. So you get good details. Colors, again, are a little bit dull, a little bit muted, but you do get pretty decent dynamic range and contrast here, as long as the lighting is good. And this is a video. Let's check out video really quick then. So as you can see, there's no image stabilization at all. The video is really jerky as I walk, but colors are accurate, and I think there's actually a respectable amount of details in this video. One thing to note though, is because this is an Android Go device, the videos are stored in a file format known as 3GP, so they're very old. They're definitely inferior to MP4s, and you'll have compatibility issues when you're trying to watch them on a PC. You need a VLC player for that. Selfie camera is actually pretty respectable too. It's a 2 megapixel selfie camera. It actually worked out better in my favor. I think I look better here than on a phone with like a 24 megapixel camera. So we'll check out selfie video quality. Selfie camera on the Blackview A20. So not bad. I mean, this is definitely a phone you can use Skype on and chat with family members and stuff without problems. So for basic smartphone tasks, you're not going to have any issues at all. As far as gaming though, it's going to be an issue if you're playing anything heavy. So you're going to have to play really simple games like the board games or something like Words with Friends, because I try to run Asphalt Extreme. First of all, it takes like a minute to fully load, and once it loads, the game is just very choppy. It's basically unplayable. For the frames per second, FPS is really choppy, and same goes for Sonic Dash. It's completely not responsive when I'm swiping. So basically any game with kind of 3D graphics, I would say you just have to avoid. You're not going to be able to play properly. You're gonna have to stick with stuff like Word with Friends and board games like that. So because this is Android Go, a lot of the apps, Google apps on this are not full version of Google apps. So you have, for example, you have YouTube. All these apps are called YouTube Go. What they do is basically it's like a web version of the app. So you don't get a full on app on your phone. So you go to Maps Go, you click into it. It basically takes you to a website. So it's a little bit slow, but it works. This phone's GPS is surprisingly relatively accurate. I tested it earlier before I reset the phone, and see right now that's indeed where I am in Kowloon. So we'll go to YouTube Go. Again, it's part of a website. But you can, of course, go into the Google Play Store and just download the full YouTube app. Except, if you do this with all the apps, you'll run out of space very fast because this phone only has 8 gigs of internal storage. So that's the gist of Android Go. It really strips Android of all the stuff that's not necessary and just gives you the skeleton version of the apps for you to use. So it's for... You can't be demanding with a phone like this, basically. It's for people who really can't afford more expensive phones, or just someone like my grandmother, for example. If I'm getting a phone for my grandmother, I'm not going to buy her like a $400 phone. She wouldn't even know how to use 90% of the features. If she's just going to go on Instagram and read Facebook every now and then this actually works fine. So even though this is a $60 phone, we're still going to do a sound check. So this is about 50% volume. So the speaker grill is on the back, which is actually a better position than at the bottom, but you can completely muffle it, just like this. The phone's also getting kind of hot because it's so being pushed for power now, streaming a video. So you see, backing on everything, it's a little bit of a delay, but that's to be expected. So another interesting thing about this phone I mentioned during the unboxing is the charging port. Micro USB port is actually at the top of the phone. That's quite interesting. And there's a headphone jack too. I tested it. The earphone volume sounds okay. And as mentioned earlier, a 3000 milliamp battery, it's really good for a device that's running a really low power chipset with only 1 gig of RAM and a low res screen. So battery life has been excellent. It definitely will last you in an entire day. I was not able to get this phone to run out of juice over 3 days of testing. And all the other things we take for granted from modern day smartphones, such as proximity sensor, gyroscope, all of that works. And the bezels on this is actually pretty decent too. For a $60 phone, the bezels aren't that chunky. So if you are really on the market for something under $100, thanks to Android Go, you can now find a phone under $100 that actually works. I think the Blackview A20 is definitely worth considering if you really just can't spend more than $80 on a phone. Am I gonna use this phone as my daily driver? Of course not, hell no. But I really admire that Blackview and Google work together to kind of produce something that's someone in a developing nation, someone from maybe Africa who might not be able to afford $120 for a phone, they can get something like this and they can keep in touch with the world. They can connect with the world. And I think that's pretty admirable. So this is the Blackview A20. You can get this for $59.99 on GearBest for now. Thanks for watching.